Well, good morning. Covert witness speaking once again from his HQ in sunny, leafy Yorkshire, and a lot to talk about, really. I haven't been chatting for a while because of strange goings on that I've been having. Immensely strange goings on. And the strange irony of that is that you have to be careful what you talk about. You really do, because it's just not safe. Person of Interest, it's very interesting, the programme Person of Interest. I was watching a recording of it the other day, and it had the bit where the lady who interfaces with the machine was speaking to it, or speaking to her, should I say, and the interrogator stood there, and the machine is speaking to her, and she is not aware that the machine is speaking to her. And she came out with this remark, did the woman who interfaces with the machine, that to give the interrogator information would be like giving the keys to a 5-year-old to a jumbo jet. And I thought, what an ironic remark that is. Because having been targeted by covert interest, which I was, I find that I have somehow gone beyond that, but yet strangely it's revealed some very shocking things, really, that I've been shocked. The fact of the matter is that we are not alone in the universe, and it ain't all friendly alien, and it ain't all they've come to save us, and it ain't all haven't aliens got a high IQ and here they are coming to save us. It's sometimes not a case of that at all. The universe can be, with these people, can be a very tribal place to be, and it concerns me deeply that I was looking on YouTube the other day, because on saying that, on the other hand as well, by a strange twist of irony, the fact of the matter is also that there are higher evolved civilizations out there. And I hedge a bet, rather controversially, even though we would say not, that the Andromeda galaxy is populated. It's definitely populated, and certain elements know this. But it's all based on this little premise of this, which is it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So in mainstream society and even in the media, we can actually prove that none of this goes on. We can prove that I'm a complete delusional nutter. We can prove that I'm making this all up as we go along, but we know behind the scenes something very different is going on indeed. The UFO that I talked about in previous covert witness blogs is due to fly over at some point in the proceedings. I don't know whether it's the one I took in 1999 or whether it's a different craft, but it is coming over. It will be flying over. And once again, it's not what we know, it's what we can prove. We can prove that he's making that up as well. We can prove that he used CGI effects if it did fly over. All this utter bullshit, whereby we seem to be orientated as a society towards war and violence. We seem to be. And I know I've been targeted by the most extreme forms of mind control. And what is even more sinister is the silence behind it all as well, which makes you wonder where you're going. And it brings us to two things that I really wanted to discuss in this little mini blog that I do. And one of them is about crossing the bridge, as I call it. Others have a different name for it, but I call it, Dr. Stephen Greer, love him or hate him, he calls it the crossing point. I call it crossing the bridge. I didn't take that from Dr. Greer, by the way. All my research is based on my own experiences. And as a result of that, I've got two TV broadcasters, well, one TV broadcaster interested in doing a little project with me. What I'm getting is an occupational hazard of up-and-coming TV presenters and comedians wanting to do stuff with me because my material is an easy bet for them. And I've got to be careful of that. I have to stand in my own right, I think, with my material. I've got a very unique project idea in my head for my material. And I have to be careful with it. I have to protect my intellectual property. But that's not what I was going on about, really. It's not the point of the blog today. Me going on about me and the media. Bloody raving narcissist. Anyway, well, the point is, it's all about a signal I want to talk about with you today. A signal that was received, I think, by NASA in the 80s. The signal was 80,000 years old, and they kept it quiet. And I think it was in the newspaper called Weekly World it was in. Just a small headline, bit like the Russian stuff, all across the Russian media in the 60s and 70s, monuments on the moon being photographed by Sputnik, by the Russian space program. All across the Russian media, that was not a word of it in the Western media, because there is a vested interest in keeping it all quiet. And this is a very interesting point, because the secrecy is probably the problem. The cover-up of this, the cover-up of our evolutionary understanding about where we are in the universe is an issue for us that we are constantly grappling with. But this, I want to talk about two things, which is crossing the bridge, and also the visions I had in early childhood. Back to this signal. And what it indicated, a Russian general talked about this, always looked to the Russian media for UFO stuff and their UFO research and what their intelligence agencies and military were doing, because they're quite open about it. They're very open about this. And oddly enough, the American CIA funded part of Russia's paranormal research, but they keep quiet about that one as well. And they did, because the Russians were onto something. They developed a system called New Cosmology. And as I've often said, there's a top guy called Alexei Savin, who gave an interview to Pravda about what his military unit did during the Cold War to remote view and contact alien civilizations. Now, that which is interesting, because this Russian general spoke about this signal that NASA had received. NASA are key players in the UFO cover-up. They know a hell of a lot, so I am told, about what is going on, and have decided to keep it quiet for whatever reason that might be. What is interesting to note is this Russian general commented in the press back in the 90s or 80s, I've forgotten his name, about this mysterious signal that NASA had received. The signal was from interstellar. It was from a civilization similar to our own. And the fact of the matter was they had developed technology that was slightly beyond us. But as a result of that, they had suffered the consequences. And it was a distress signal that had been picked up. And what is very interesting about this comment that the general made, that I zoned in on, was that it was sent. They believe the location of it was from the periphery of a planet within the Andromeda galaxy, on the periphery of the Andromeda galaxy. Andromeda, the Trialan, and a few others are populated, and the Andromeda galaxy is populated. It's there. There are people out there in the Andromeda galaxy. You may ask, well, how the hell does he know that? But that's another story altogether. And really, these blogs are based on people like yourselves who are going about your daily lives. You've probably got responsibilities. You don't want to talk about it in public, but you've had contact experiences, and that I'm the man. I'm the guy to discuss that in the public domain. Doesn't bother me in the slightest about me going public with it. I was only telling somebody the other day that if you can't go down the pub and have a laugh and a joke about it and try and live an ordinary life, then there's something wrong. And for me, in that sense, to try and live an ordinary life because of all this has been hell's own job. But that's my choice, I think, and my decision. Waffling on, here we go, back to the signal. What is interesting is that it seemed to be a mathematical signal, and it had all kinds of combinations to it. And when they decoded it, they discovered that there'd been a war on this planet. They discovered that this civilization had nearly destroyed itself with weapons, and that they had interstellar travel. They'd just perfected it, but they couldn't leave their planet, and it was an SOS. It was told, this Russian general indicated that the signals had indicated that they had had a nuclear war of some description, that people were very ill from it, and that they were having destructive nightmares happening in their kind of continents and so on and so forth because of it. People were dying because of it, and they'd sent this distress signal, and it was 80,000 years old. When it got here, that's the time distance that it was from that periphery. And they said that they couldn't get off the planet. The question I asked was, were they us? Did they get off the planet? Is that half the story? Are they us? It's just a question that came into my head. But the second thing that happened was, during my routine course of being wired into the grid, a bit like the computer of person of interest interfacing with the continuum, as I call it, they said, those behind the UFOs, and I won't go into details about how that all happened, but they said that the same fate would befall the human race if we are not careful, which it will if we are not careful. At the moment, we have this spectacular tension, this strategy of tension between Russia and NATO. NATO knows about the UFO situation, as does Russia. And the question I have to China as well. I mean, China is being watched. I mean, China is a nation that is kicking off in the South China. There's this strategy of tension all around us, whether it be austerity, war, terrorism. A strategy of tension is upon the human race, and it is observed by this Russian general that these people were trying to get off the planet. The question is, are they us? I know I'm repeating myself. But the thing is that we were being warned, and we are being warned. We're continually being warned, the human race, that this is what's going to happen. This fate is going to befall us if we are not careful. We're going to have war. There's no getting away from it. And the fact of the matter is, further to that, when you go even deeper into the paranormal espionage of it, into areas, there was Majestic 12 that was formed, now known as the Interagency Group, I think it's called, but there was Majestic 12 that was formed, and there was another agency called the Collins Elite, who had sussed that the UFOs had a dynamic element to them. But what is interesting to note is that the modus operandi of this is that there are two world wars that have currently happened, and the modus operandi of them is that they are not by random coincidence within 2 centuries. There's 2 separate centuries that these have happened, 1900, 1940, no, 20th century they happened, didn't they? Yeah. World War One, World War Two, 1918, 1949. Yeah, yeah. So in these centuries that happened, there was 2 world wars, and the situation is that the modus operandi of them is something moving behind the scenes causing them. As you will note from my mind control situation, I'm suffering possibly a bit of short-term memory loss from what is happening. This will happen. This really will, and I'm afraid it's a travesty of justice as to what has gone on, because somebody somewhere wants to keep this quiet. Somebody somewhere wants human beings to be in conflict with each other, doesn't want us to be free. But yet another element out there is carefully watching and making sure that we are trying to stay on the right track with great difficulty. As for me, in early childhood, from the age of 2, I had visions. Which was of extraterrestrials and UFOs since 2, and this has currently continued into something that I call crossing the bridge. Last year, one Saturday, these dimensional beings that the certain elements and certain covert interest groups are so very interested in. My liaison is mainly with Scandinavian-looking ETs at the moment. But this other element that has probably got my child, abducted me on numerous occasions, are a very. One of them commented from another grouping that their ethics, similar to those who targeted me, are a lot to be desired, because as contactees will tell you, and once again, not what you know, what we can prove that none of this is happening, when behind the scenes it is happening. You are out there as an individual, possibly, who's had experiences, and you're keeping it quiet, and you're just trying to find out more, and that's where I come in. That's why I'm in the public domain with it, to facilitate, to help people along. And the comment was that these beings from another dimension, although absolutely fascinating that they are, and they're our nearest dimensional neighbours, will cause absolute mayhem for the person who has been contacted by them, leaving behind a signature in time and space, a signal like in time and space, but also the contactee experiencer has to pick up their lives again, and are left bamboozled with it all, because nobody tells you anything. Even the things coming over the house that I've liaised with are all drip, drip, drip. They're all a bit shady as to giving the full information content as to what's happening. Something shocking happened a few weeks ago. It was so shocking that I don't even want to talk about it, and it's not even safe to talk about it. But it was an intervention issue that happened with them, and it deeply shocked me, because they said something would happen. It did happen, but they stopped it. They prevented something. Literally prevented something, and that's through the know-how of technology and manipulation of things. They did, because there is a vested interest in the United Kingdom for some reason. There again, there would be a vested interest. Everybody wants to come to the UK, even though people slag it off, because I think there is something going on within society, within our environment, that's happening there as well. So I've had some rather freakish goings on. Now, back to the bridge. So one Saturday a few years ago, they were on three occasions on Saturday mornings, these dimensional beings you'd see them create this kind of simulation effect where there'd like be this flowing river of time, and you'd see them wave at me like this, that distinctly bald head, advanced people from a future timeline, very much down the future timeline, perhaps possibly ourselves, but on another timeline, more advanced. Possibly. There's lots of possibilities in this. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this and you're not into this subject, this is not for you. This is for people who have keys to jumbo jets. This is for people who have the keys to the continuum. It's very advanced stuff, what I'm talking about. So at first glance, you'll think that this is some kind of narcissistic loon rant. Actually, it's for those who are having experiences, and I'm just trying to point the way for them. So that's what it's all about. So if you're interested, stay with us. Thank you for joining us. And if you're having experiences and want to know more, I hope you're finding this useful. Anyway, so at age 2, this was found in a charity shop, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know whether you can see it, but it's a scarf. I don't know whether the camera's picking this up. It's a beautiful scarf, and it has a symbology on it, which is an elephant. I wonder if we can just get the camera to show that. Can you see my elephant? Hang on. Let's have a look. Oh, Lord, I'm all over the place with this, aren't I? Right, where are we? Elephant, where are you? Ah, yes, there we go. Can you just see him there? Or her? Right, elephant thingy. Let me just do that a bit better. It's a beautiful scarf. Anyway, yes, there it is. Now, it was found in a chair. I'm holding the camera with one hand. I've just gone off lens there. Sorry about that. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, it's not a good shot there, but yeah. So I found that in a charity shop. It's a scarf, and I've actually hung it over the door. And it's a scarf with an elephant on it. And you may ask yourself, what the hell has he bought a scarf from a charity shop for with two bloody with the elephants on it? Well, when I was age 2, dear viewer, we had a situation occur whereby a symbolic image of 2 elephants guided by 2 individuals walked through a wall and so on and so forth, and it was a symbolic thing. And I'm not too sure what it actually means, but these people know Sanskrit and they know ancient India. It seems to be that India and ancient India seems to be where it's at with them, and their understanding of Sanskrit as well. And they mentioned something to me when they crossed the bridge. So they wave when they do the simulation, it's like a river of time, and they wave, and then they literally build a bridge over to me, like a hopping effect. It's quite amazing to see it. Even though it's quite amazing to see it, you don't know why they're here, and you don't know what their ethics are, and you don't know whether they have a regard for your welfare or whether they're following a quasi-military spiritual agenda, which is what some of them do. And there's been a big, behind the scenes, there's been a big kind of argument among them all about what they've been doing, because it exposes you see, to something that's quite undesirable. And it does expose you. So, they cross over the bridge, and then they say this kind of Sanskrit thing, which I had to look up on the internet. And it was correct. I'm thinking, what the hell are they saying? And they only said one word, and then they went again. But within that word there was a structure, and they were showing me the vision that I had age 2 to confirm that they'd been watching me since 2 years of age. So whoever I was, they knew, and because they would do, because their time technology flows differently to ours, it's quite advanced. And so that was the vision of crossing the bridge. And it's amazing for me that 14, 15 years, kind of like in the 15-year quest that this has gone on, they've actually signified what that symbology was all about at age 2 to me. So I hung this scarf over the door. And what I'm going to do, the next thing, and I know it sounds simple, but the next thing, I'm just watching the effects of it, is to see what happens, basically. Because obviously they're aware that I am now linked symbolically with all this. So it's primitive, really, but it's a form of communication for me. But probably, I don't know why I'm pissing around doing that when I'm talking to you, because, but the fact of the matter is they probably abducted me on numerous occasions, and far more's gone on than what they're obviously letting on. But that's all about, it's called crossing the bridge. And the thing with that is that when you cross the bridge into their domain, you're crossing across our timeline, you're crossing into a spiritual realm, and you're crossing into their dimensional realm, which is further forward in time from where we are. You are then put back into current time, which is currently the 11th, I think, of July, 12th of July 2015, you put back in time. And this, and if you're a contactee experiencer and that are keeping quiet, you may have had this feeling as well, gives you an unusual feeling of time displacement, as if you are stood in the past. You can be walking down the street and it's as if everybody's in the past and you've been elsewhere. And that's the effect of it. That's one of the effects of it, as well as the mental effects of it as well, and the mind control and the covert interests that decide that they're going to watch you, and so on and so forth. And that's what I mean. And they leave you, they come in, they do their thing. It's all very fascinating. But really, what angers me is there's nothing there really of real information quality. It's all very nice to step in, show you a vision, say a bit of Sanskrit and piss off again. But there's no real grasp from them of what's happening. Perhaps this will change in the later years. I'm not too sure with them, but that seems to be what's going on at the moment. And thirdly is the issue of these people who look like us from other galaxies. It is true the universe is definitely populated, and at the moment that's all really gone quiet. They're quiet at the moment. That doesn't necessarily mean to say that they're not active. The Scandinavian Nordic element is just very quiet, but once again I heard a whisper from them, and that doesn't mean to say that we're not active, because they are. They're there. They're watching all the time. Perhaps they're giving me a break from it. But it has been a nightmare these past few weeks. So even though I've gone quiet, it's just been a bit of a nightmare trying to deal with it all, because you're interfacing into a different environment that's quasi-military, quasi-spiritual, quasi-alien, and it's not quite human. And that's the thing with it, and you're interfacing with it, and it can get a bit hair-raising. Most paranormal espionage operations of governments, Russia especially and America, know where I'm coming from with all this. They do, and the question is where we're going, because somebody somewhere wants a war, definitely so. And as the repeating message from these occupants in the UFOs is that each civilization has paid the price. And what is interesting, back to this signal I was talking about with the Russian general, he said, looking at the data from this signal, was that there was an admission of guilt from this civilization, and admission that they had made it happen and they shouldn't have gone down that avenue. And you know, if we go down that avenue of conflict with Russia, China and America, if we go down that avenue of war, our leaders of this world will regret it deeply. They will reflect, and they will reflect on what a appalling situation they manoeuvred humanity in, and we're being continually warned. But the other issue is this, is that there is a non-human element behind the scenes that navigates human affairs as well. And that is a very interesting, it must be respected, by the way. If it isn't respected, I don't think I'll be sat here now, ladies and gentlemen. The information I'm coming out with, I don't think I'll be sat here now with it, but it has to be respected, that's the thing. And it just seems a crazy situation to be in, really. So, you know, some fascinating snippets of information there that I'm trying. And we recently assisted somebody from Durham University as well about a project they were working on about people's beliefs. But my experiences don't come from belief. My experiences are from experiences that have happened to me. They're not from belief. I've always said that exotic technology cannot be ruled out. So there you go. So just to sum up then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm giving two talks, one at Southport where we're doing a sky watch on the Ainsdale Beach on the 22nd of July. That will be interesting. It's at the Southport Spiritualist Church in Portland Street. And I'm at the Vault in Newcastle on the 2nd of August, doing my little talk about UFOs and paranormal espionage, quite interactive. We do a bit of remote viewing. And we do the remote viewing element of my research, which has been commented on by Joseph McMonigal, no less, who put me in contact with the Russian elements of all this. We do the remote viewing bit of my talks, not because I'm a remote viewer, but because I understand the process involved that leads to what I've talked about, which is the interface into my experiences and interactions, you see. That's why I studied it, because I wanted to learn more. I still want to learn more, but I'm having a very hard time with it at the moment, and I'm having some real dark nights of the soul in order to understand and get this information. I'm having some tremendous dark days of the soul as well. It's not easy. Not easy being in this situation at all. And I've no doubt that the UFO overflights will appear again. I keep saying this, nothing's happened so far. But we'll wait and see what further interaction comes my way. I'm pretty sure it's some sort of acclimatisation process. And I think that I'm hoping that with my Scandinavian friends that keep coming over the house and keeping an eye on things, I think that if it wasn't for them, things would be far worse with the situation that I faced. They're fascinating. They're the only group out of all the things that I have seen and gone through. They're the only group of individuals who have stepped forward, presented themselves, and have just kept an eye. They're the only group who appears to have done so, because everybody else appears to just be following their own quasi-military spiritual interests. I say quasi-military spiritual because the spiritual realm, something beyond that, a bit like the film Inception, there's something beyond that, beyond current understanding that exists around us, that is an environment that is kind of like a spiritual astral plane but isn't, and it's occupied by something, and I call it the continuum. Dr. Greer, as I say, calls it the crossing point. I'm sure there's many other terms for it, but I interface with it in a very most unique way, and which makes me a very unique man. It really does. And remember, boys and girls, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Just remember that always. Always. Right. Okay, well, that's Covert Witness, over and out. I hope you enjoyed this little blog. I can't think of anything else to say. My brain's creaking with the strain of it all. And I think that's it for now. I'm looking forward to seeing if we can see a UFO on Ainsdale Beach, and I'm also looking forward to seeing if we get some proper UFO stuff coming over the house as well. Okay, over and out.